Welcome to our monthly program, Let's Talk NRM, our program on natural resource management. This is brought to you by MBMA, the Meghalaya Basin Management Agency, under the CLEM program, the Community-Led Landscape Management Project. COP26 has just been over in Glasgow, and we exactly know how close we are to that red line. Just 0.4 degrees centigrade more, and the process is going to be irreversible. What Meghalaya needs to do to reverse that process, the responsibility that Meghalaya has, the actions that Meghalaya is going to take and is already taking, to discuss these, we have none other than the person at the helm of affairs in Meghalaya, the Chief Minister of Meghalaya, Mr. Conrad K. Sangma, with us today. Sir, you are at the helm of affairs in a state that has been identified as one of the biodiversity hotspots in the world. What does natural resource management mean to you?
Well, in a way, if you look at it, it means everything. Our state as it is a hotspot for biodiversity, as you mentioned. And the natural resources we have is abundant. Mm-hmm. And we can see that traditionally the people of the state, the communities have depended on the natural resources that are available in the state. What is important in today's world, especially with the impact of climate change and the CO2 emissions, and being a very sensitive area, we need to realize that climate change will affect us more. So what really we are trying to look at is that we need to realize as a government and as a society that we need to manage our natural resources in a better manner compared to maybe other regions of the world or the country. So that is what it is, and what we realize is that being very sensitive area, we need to come out with different programs, we need to incentivize the community, we need to involve the community, we need to create awareness among the people, and we need to invest in the whole process. So therefore, how do we manage the natural resources we have so that the livelihood remains for the people, and yet we are able to balance it out and protect the environment and the ecology at the same time. So the balance between these two, the management of these natural resources, will be key in the coming years when we have climate effects affecting us more compared to the rest of the world. So that's why it is very critical for us. So can we come out with mechanisms where we can actually bring out livelihood, create value out of these while maintaining it and ensuring that it is used in the right way and protecting our environment and yet creating livelihood out of this. Absolutely. So that's really what the balance and the management part is.
COP26 has just been over in Glasgow, and we know that if we don't act fast, we are going to cross that 1.5 degree centigrade increase, average increase since the pre-industrial era. Prime Minister Modi has already promised that by 2070, India is going to become carbon neutral. What do you think Meghalaya needs to do, and what are those things that Meghalaya already is doing to make sure that we are on the right path?
Yes, you're absolutely right. Now, 2070 is the time frame where the Honorable Prime Minister of India has set the target for our country. But I strongly feel that Meghalaya can be one of the first states to actually achieve it. And the reason is that number one, we have already an advantage in terms of our carbon emissions being lesser compared to most of the other locations. And also the fact that our forest covers and other aspects do balance out for the different emissions that take place. I think what is important for our state, or for any other state for the matter of fact, or government, is to realize which are the main contributors to the emissions that are there in their respective states, and which are the areas which will actually neutralize more compared to others. So therefore, we realize that there are certain industries that are there in our state, which are the larger contributors to the CO2 emission. Now, if that contributes, for example, 30–40%, then strict measures to ensure that better technology can be utilized by these industries so that it doesn't have to close down, but at the same time they adhere to the constraints and the levels that the government prescribes. And if we can do more in that part, then I think the results will be faster. So number one, we need to really prioritize which are the sectors and areas where we need to put more stringent laws to control. But as I said, we do need to balance. Doesn't mean that we need to shut down everything.
Right.
It's just important to know that today in the world there are technologies available that can minimize the impacts, and I think those need to be brought out, and industries need to be asked to adopt those technologies. On the other hand, it will be important to continuously increase our forest cover. It will be important to bring in new technology, like for example electric vehicles. We already have an electrical vehicle policy. We hope that we'll be able to get more and more vehicles that run on electricity, on EVs. We hope that more and more renewable energy, of course, by definition, even hydroelectricity is actually renewable. So therefore, we are, as of now, producing completely clean energy. But then can we enhance that? Can we increase that? All these aspects will be important. Lifestyles of the individuals and peoples will be important. So how can we influence our citizens to preserve water, electricity, power, at the same time request them to reduce their consumptions or recycle, reuse as they call it, so triple R.
Right.
So I think all these aspects need to be brought in, but of course it requires a larger policy framework, and that's where the government comes in, and that's why it's important for us to prioritize these different aspects and see which one will impact us more, and accordingly act on it.
So Meghalaya is rich in natural resources, and at the same time, there's a lot of development required. How do you balance out these two, managing the natural resources and yet keeping the development wheel moving?
I think one needs to understand what development really means in the first place. So if you're talking of development as mass industrialization and having a lot of companies coming in, then that's not necessarily the definition that I would go with. So therefore, I think we need to understand that when we say development, it's a holistic development. We need to ensure that infrastructure is there. We need to make sure that livelihood is created for the people. We need to make sure that entrepreneurship is booming. We need to ensure that different resources that we have are managed in the right way. So while we do all of that, yes, we need to see the overall balancing factor of the ecology. Sustainability, absolutely. So, so therefore, if you look at Meghalaya, it can go hand in hand. We can absolutely have a scenario where we can have the development which I was mentioning about, having a holistic development in terms of, yes, the overall infrastructure development, but ensuring that human indicators that are there, those should be up. At the same time, we should have livelihood for the people and the basic facilities that are there. These all can go hand in hand for Meghalaya. And therefore, if you look at it, we are not stressing and saying that we need huge industrialization. We do need industries based on the resources that we have, but it should be in a manner which is sustainable and which respects the natural resources that we have. Now, the challenges we face, especially in an economy like ours, which a lot of people will say, is that we are dependent a lot on our mineral resources.
Right.
And that becomes a challenge for us. Now, it is a challenge. Now, it's something that our people have been depending on for many, many years. So for somebody to come in and simply say, well, we'll cut it off, will lead to a huge loss of, a livelihood for the people, and will hit the economic activity, right where it matters. So therefore, what we need to do is that we need to slowly shift things. We need to create parallel economic activities. We need to create that. Now, that cannot happen overnight.
Right.
That's the reason why we have come up with this concept of natural resource management, where we feel that, is there a better way to deal with the natural resources we have, where we respect the environment and ecology, and yet allow economic activity and livelihood to come out. And that's really what this entire natural resource management is all about. And therefore, striking the balance between these two is the key. And we feel that industries like tourism, industries like horticulture and food processing, industries where our unique resources are there, which can be really used in unique manners. So can we create parallel systems and economies to kind of make alternative for the existing mineral-based economy that we have, is the challenge. And this step which we're doing on natural resource management is part of that activity.
And as you were saying, there's a lot of work actually going on in Meghalaya in terms of natural resource management.
Right.
Do you think a lot of it can set examples for other states of the Northeast and, for that matter, other states of the country?
Well, that's not for me to say, but of course, we look at a certain issue, we look at a certain situation, and we try to see how we could improve it. We realize that we need to protect our catchment areas. So, we have come out with two unique projects to really protect our main catchment areas. We have come out with projects to rejuvenate our spring sheds or the spring waters that we have. A lot of them were dying, and then now you'll see that they're being revived and
Right.
rejuvenated again. We have started that. We have come up with a program to have over 1,000 reservoirs throughout the state, so that the water can be stopped and collected and can be used by the people,
Particularly in the winter, when the
in the
dry
winter
months.
seasons.
Right.
So there's another externally aided project which is being worked on, in that we have a water policy. We are one of the first states in the country to have a water policy which allows the community to come in and participate and manage things. And while we do all of these activities, it's not a government alone based activity. It's an activity that involves the community at large.
At the grassroots.
And
right.
because they are the most important stakeholders in terms of the owners, as well as the people who will be impacted the most.
Absolutely.
So therefore, the most important part of all these programs is how we get the stakeholders connected to all of this activity we're doing, and yet achieve the goals that we are trying to do. So that's really what it is. And I hope that the examples that we set, the positive results that we get, and the positive steps we take, if it can be a guiding kind of a principle or a project for other states, I think that'll be a great thing for us. We'll be very happy.
So there is a school of thought that says that the absence of heavy industry in Meghalaya is actually a positive. We don't have to make the same mistakes that other states have made. Our future is open, and we can go in a completely different way and, as you said, make it sustainable. What are your thoughts on this, sir?
Every state or every region or every country will have its own economic plan and agenda. It's not necessary that a success story that works in, say, Gujarat has to necessarily be replicated in Meghalaya. We have to see our own local conditions and our local strengths.
Absolutely.
And our vision for the future. So therefore, complete absence of industry is not what I'm talking about. We do need industries to a certain level, and if there is a scope for it to come up, then it should. But provided, of course, that we follow the guidelines that are there for different aspects of environment or different rules and regulations that need to be followed. But having said that, you're right that for Meghalaya, clearly the advantage lies in our service sectors. It lies in our agriculture sector. Now, we do have a large agriculture economy, but are we able to give the opportunity to our farmers and entrepreneurs to scale it up in terms of adding value and really increasing their income? I think there's a huge scope in that. So I think at the end, food processing, packaging, and market linkage, logistic hubs and the logistic chain, marketing chain, and agricultural productivity chain, I think all these need to be worked on. So we need to take advantage of that. Tourism is a huge sector. We feel we can go into service sector. I think these are great opportunities which have not been explored. So as I said, industrialization to the extent it should, but not necessarily the way other states have done it.
Right.
I think we should chalk out our own path.
And sir, in that connection, where do you see the role of the traditional institutions? The traditional institutions are very much ingrained in the societal milieu and the societal, the way society acts over here in this part of the country.
Absolutely. It is, in fact, one of our greatest strengths.
Right.
And it really allows inclusiveness to be there because it's absolutely down to the grassroots level. So you have a strong institutionalized system mechanism which has worked for centuries, and more importantly, people have believed in it and people have stuck with it. So it is a great advantage, and we should use that in order to implement our economic goals and visions in the long run. And even as we speak, the entire natural resource management program that we're doing, it couldn't be possible without the participation of the community. And as I said earlier, that they are the ones who are impacted the most out of it. So it makes complete sense. A simple example which we're going to do is what we're calling the community public-private partnership model, which is a unique model which has not happened in any other part of the country. What we mean here is that there will be a public-private partnership, but the private, the entity will not be an individual, but the community as a whole. So the community will own the land, the government will invest in it, and then the community will run it again. And there'll be a sharing model between the government and the community. And these kind of models, I think, will be the first of its kind in the country. And that's because of the strong traditional setups that we have. Even larger organizations which are traditionally based are also there. So all the traditional institutions we have, I feel, is a strong strength of ours. And we should use that to our advantage to further the economic goals and visions that we have for the state and the people.
Wonderful. So you've been involved in many of these development projects with respect to natural resource management. Can you narrate some success stories from Meghalaya?
I can, but it'll be very long. But definitely from, for example, like, in the last many years, we used to plant a lot of saplings. And at the end, we wanted to really do a lot of it, but we didn't have enough. So we started creating a large number of saplings and a nursery for it. And more importantly, rather than using plastic to cover the saplings, we started using bamboo and biodegradable bags to actually keep the sapling together, so that once it's planted, it actually doesn't become counterproductive and actually spoils the environment. So these kind of small things which have done makes a huge difference. This year we'll be planting over 1 crore saplings.
Wow.
It'll be a record, I think, in the history of our state and maybe many states in the region. So things like these, and maybe more specific example would be recently, which had gone to Makhodep village in Riboy area along with Mr. Sampath. And you've seen out there that in one village how saplings have been put in, planted, how the water has been stopped and reservoirs have been created, which has created water for them to produce the agriculture products even during dry seasons and non-rainy seasons, which has then further led to them able to increase their revenue and go into dairy products production.
That's right. They bought a cow.
They bought a cow and all that. So these are just small examples, and these are happening in many locations. And the beauty of this entire project, or this entire goal we have of natural resource management, is really to touch the lives at the grassroots level and at the village level. So just a few examples I wanted to share.
Yeah, these are actually touching individual lives at the grassroots level. And I've seen it for myself, as you just mentioned, sir, at Makhodep. So what would be your message to the people of Meghalaya on natural resource management?
Well, my message to the people of our state would be that nothing will be possible without your participation and their participation. Given the kind of system and the setup we have in our traditional systems and institutions, ownership is with the community. And the impact also is to the community.
Absolutely.
So therefore, this will be a teamwork.
Right.
And my message to the people would be that, yes, we as a government have a role responsibility to move things in this aspect, but it cannot happen without your participation and without your support and without your active role in this. So therefore, I request and urge each one that this needs to be taken very seriously. We have a limited time. It's not that we have forever to try and resolve this issue of climate change. We are already seeing the impact of it that's happening. Yet we need to ensure that our livelihood is created. We need to ensure that economic development continues. But we need to also ensure that it happens while we respect the environment and the natural resources that we have. So for all of this to happen, government will do its part, government will play the role that it has to play, but nothing will work and nothing will happen if the community and the people do not participate. So my request and message to everybody is, let's do this together. And I'm sure that if we have the support from the people, we will be successful in achieving the goals that we have set for ourselves.
That's right, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So there you are, listeners. The Chief Minister of Meghalaya has prioritized sustainable development over full-fledged industrialization. And that is a good lesson to learn from other states. Keeping in mind COP26 and the requirements that we need to follow, these are good measures. This program was brought to you from MBMA, the Meghalaya Basin Management Agency under the CLEM project, the Community-Led Landscape Management Project. See you again next month with another episode.